Welcome, everyone. This is Toni Weel from not so sunny Florida. Hopefully, we get some rain because my plants are loving the rain. What is it with that rain that likes it better than my beautiful filtered whole house water that they can get? It's like that dirty, that dirty rain. They thrive on it. Anyway, tomorrow we're gonna get them out of the planters and into the soil. I want my plants, experience the real soil, the real connection that they don't get in the pots. And we're gonna use like copper rods. It will be interesting to see the difference. Anyway, today we have with us, of course, Gary Parent. We have Katie and Sarah from Virtuous Unicorns. And I think that about the topic that we want to talk about today, we all have something to say about it. I definitely do. Gary just mentioned before we started about the breath and emotional eating, and emotions. So that is always a good thing. I will later share an actually screen share is about a book that Nora Lenz wrote. I think many people listening here know about Nora Lenz, about her rotational mono feeding, the right foods for our pets. Definitely look her up on Facebook. And but she has also something to say about people, and she wrote this a long time ago, and it's gosh, it's always valid. And it's too long to read it all. You if you want it, because it was copyrighted and she gave me permission to share it with my clients. So yeah, maybe you can write me, I can send it to you. But yeah, you will have to email me and I will let her know about this. And that is called We All Emotional Eaters. Now, of course, realizing what you are, it's also important to know the cause. Why are we all emotional eaters? And Nora Lenz had a good idea about that, and we'll get into that later. But first, I want to start with a book that was suggested to me a few years ago, and that is from Alan Carr, and he has a lot of it, but he books about a lot of addictions, and he calls it the easy way out to quit emotional eating. And I found a few things in his book. Of course, there's a lot in his book. I mean, it is how many pages? 250. So we're not going into that, but there are a few that that I would like to share with it. And he says you are not powerless and you do not lack willpower, because that's what we always hear and think about ourselves. Oh, we don't have the willpower. Now, the reason that you have failed to overcome emotional eating in the past is simply because you were following the wrong method. And, we have been taught a variety of things, and I'm sure Gary goes into this further because I know he has the key to it too, which is different than what I'm referring to now with Ellen Carr, but it is actually also very simple. And nobody likes to admit that they've lost control. We regard self-control as a cornerstone of civilized behavior, and it goes hand in hand with morality, dignity, and courtesy. Now, loss of control causes feelings of shame, and thus problems like addiction and emotional eating are swept under the carpet. The person with the problem denies it, the rest try to avoid it. I don't think that emotional eating is actually something we cannot talk about it like you have with an alcohol or drug addiction. People easily talk about, eating and even smoking. But anyway, keeping it all to yourself, that creates a burden that only makes it harder to escape from the trap. And that's no way to tackle a problem. It makes you feel good alone. It makes you feel sorry. It makes you feel very alone, and compels you to try to conceal it from others and from yourself. Secretive behavior creates even greater feelings of guilt and shame that deepen your misery. The first necessity when tackling a problem like emotional eating is to acknowledge that you have it or that it has you. Now, at the moment I actually realized that I was an emotional eater, and it's not even that long ago, I felt that it was even getting worse to keep it in control than ever before. And so now it's constantly going through your head. Oh yeah, I'm an emotional eater. We'll talk about that later. We got away from that. So there is a lot of things that are going through our mind then. And Ellen Carr says further, the solution is in your hands. More accurately, it's in your mind. You need to break the cycle of misery of comfort eating. And you can be honest about your emotional eating and be prepared to open your mind to some truths that seem hard to accept. But you're not alone, far from it. Emotional eating is a global problem threatening the health and happiness of millions, if not billions, of people. It will also become apparent that your problem is not down to some failing in your personality. The more you allow yourself to open up and unravel these myths, the more you will understand that you can conquer your emotional eating, and you can do so without willpower. Now, he has a method, and he calls it Easy Way in all his books. It is a tried and tested way of escaping from addictive traps like emotional eating. It is built on the realization that addiction hijacks our instincts so that the fix we turn to for relief is actually the poison that caused our problem in the first place. Isn't that an interesting way to look at it? So what he teaches is change the way you think about food, help you learn to eat mindfully and make food a pleasure again, show you how to put a stop to emotional eating immediately, easily, and painlessly, and enable you the weight you want to be, and let you have control of your life again. So by explaining how the addiction trap works and setting out simple step-by-step instructions to help you get free, his book will show you how to approach eating for a healthier, happier life. It will address the feeling of panic that can set in and cloud your judgment when you're trying to overcome addiction. It will help you to replace deceit, guilt, and shame with openness, honesty, and confidence. And it will help you take control when you feel helpless. And it will replace misery with happiness. There is no need for you to be miserable. You're not giving up anything. Nothing bad is going to happen to you, and you will not miss or yearn for anything. So this is about this book, Ellen Carr's Easy Way to Quit Emotional Eating. And I will see if I can add a link when the thought came up to add a link in the description. It was already too late to do it, so I will do it later and just direct you to where you can get that book. And you know, let it help you and overcome it, because it is easier than you think, and we don't have these consistent fallbacks to, you know, you start great, you start with transitioning to the high fruit, and then something happens and we're back at square one. And it's easier for me to tell my clients, like, okay, well, when that happens to you, don't call me afterward. Call me when you have that feeling that, you know, you have to eat something. It's not always possible. But then I realize a lot of people feel kind of embarrassed about it. I know I do. You know, I'm embarrassed when I don't stick to what I should have been eating, and I can tell myself, like, okay, this was just one time and it was good for you, you needed it, and now we move on and get back on track. I wish it was that easy. But anyway, I'll let you guys talk now, and before we get into Nora Lenz's about are we all emotional eaters?
I can't remember if it was Katie or Sarah said that she wanted to speak first. So go for
Yeah,
it.
I know I
Sarah.
said that I wanted to go first, but I'm in like some kind of
Yeah, go ahead.
extended area.
Well, whoever wants to say something, go ahead.
So basically, from what I understand, because as a kid, I was a massive emotional eater. Every time my parents would leave, I'd like eat like,
You can hear me okay?
yeah. Do you want to go for it?
I think I'm in a
Oh, yeah, okay.
bad area because it keeps
Yeah, you're breaking up.
freezing up. So I'm gonna have to wait a minute. I'll let you know though. Thank you.
Okay. So emotional eating is learned. We're not born with emotional eating. That is learned over time through trials and through trauma, through just watching your parents and your aunts and uncles. And, you got, like my mother always used to say, uh, eat all the food on your plate and take seconds because you want to grow up to be big and strong, don't you? Well, it was almost all comfort food. And those comfort foods are controlled. What our emotional eating is really controlled through chemical and parasites. The parasites connect to our nervous system. And that's what cravings and urges and pictures in our heads, that's what's happening. They're hungry. And this is the same for nicotine, it's the same for everything, right? And they hook to the nervous system and they start to shake the nervous system when they're hungry. And all of a sudden we get a craving. We don't know where it came from. We don't know why it's there. And unless we're aware of it, we'll just go eat that food because we're unaware that it's happening to us. And your breath is connected to that, whether it's fear based or anger or suppression or depression. It doesn't really matter if there's an emotion, there's a breath associated with it. And it's causing more fear than anything. Because let's face it, our bodies are wired to eat to survive. And what the commercial companies are doing is they're adding chemicals, which are frequencies, to that, which lower our energy. And all parasites love low energy and low oxygen. And the more we feed that, okay, the bigger their colonies get until they start to cause a problem because they're peeing and pooping in our body. And we can change that anytime we want to, but we have to be aware of it first and not be overwhelmed by thinking that we're stuck with that. So we're fighting two things: chemical addiction, emotional addiction, and the parasites controlling our nervous systems. Now, as we raise or elevate through the master cleanse or fruit juices or fruits, berries, and melons, whichever way you want to do that, as the energy comes up, the parasites will be forced out of the body. And this includes yeast, mold, and fungus, because to me, they're parasites. If they're alive and they can grow their colonies, then they're a parasite. Everything in the body that's alive is a parasite that is causing us harm. So through breathing, going for a walk, you have this craving, right? You have to change the mood, change the breath. The breath has shifted with that. And we get kind of paralyzed by this and we start looking for chips or ice cream or macaroni and cheese or any comfort food that we can eat. And we're not satisfying our body, we're satisfying the things that are controlling our nervous system. So to get up and go for a walk or to go throw a basketball and a hoop, even if you're by yourself. Anything to break the pattern that's creating that craving. And it will go away. And it doesn't take very long either. Even if you just focus on your breath and you're just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth longer than you inhaled, because the emotion that is attached with that is fight or flight. It's the sympathetic nerve. And when we breathe and we walk and we move, whether we're doing qigong or yoga or whatever it is, when we get that craving, we start doing that, that will go away because we're elevating the energy within the body. And as we do, those cravings will go away, and those things that are causing our emotional eating will start to go away. I mean, like permanently go away. And it may take you a while. There might be certain sights, sounds, taste, and our taste buds, because there are thousands of scientists around the world that are after one taste bud on the back of our tongue. And that's what the salt slide at McDonald's is about. That's what the sugar is about. That's what all that stuff that's causing all these chemical cravings and low energy in the body are all associated in the same thing. They have the same reaction. Now, our emotion may be different. I mean, anger is anger, but the level of anger, the level of suppression, the level of I don't fit in, the level of I'm not worthy, and you get defeated doing something, and it sends you in an emotional tailspin, and you start binge eating or eating comfort foods. These are important things to know and understand, and know that you have the power to change them. Like if you go to Europe, right, wherever the American diet goes, emotional eating follows because it's chemically laden and it's lowering our energy. And those are the things we need to break with, like nice organic fruits, berries, melons, even veggies. I'm not many people are that big a veggie fan, but they do have an electrical current. And if you can have too low energy, you can have too high energy. So we're looking for the balance, and vegetables are sometimes the things that pulls that energy back down so we feel more balanced. Because when we're emotional eating, we're out of balance. And that is all controlled by breath and hydration and proper nutrition, movement. It never changes. Like movement, just going for a walk out and, wherever you are. I'm in a beautiful park here. Going swimming in a river, or if you have a river you can swim in where you are. They're all amazing out here. Lakes and ponds, and you got to distract yourself. Something happened that triggered this emotional response that makes you want to eat. But if you go do something different, the second it's there, or in through the nose, and you reset your mindset, and then you go for a walk, or you play something, you do something that takes your mind off eating, and it will go away. That doesn't mean it won't come back later, but you can do the same thing. And right now, the emotional response to comfort eating is stronger than your ability to stop it. But as you go in and you change your breath and you get up and you go for a walk, or you get up and do something, that will become stronger than the emotional eating. And over time, that will take that away. And for some people, it might be a matter of a day or two. Others, it might take 6 months. It depends on how you feel emotionally and your reaction to what you are eating. Because we know that emotional eating is not good for us. It bogs the body down. It congests the lymphatic system. It causes all kinds of problems, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I'll leave it at that. I hope that answered your question.
It did, and I hope, can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. I know the one part where you were talking about you go for a walk or go, swim somewhere like in a river or something, and those are all great. But I was gonna say my thing I used to do was I would get on Instagram or I would get on, TikTok, and even like I was trying to watch stuff about like Bill Donahue or, maybe some recipes that were good and healthy versus, whatever. But in this whole journey that I've been on, and then in the journey I've been doing with my husband, helping reverse his diabetes,
Yep.
it's just all the way everything is cooked and made, and everything is just horrible for us. And it's loaded with butter, it's loaded with oil, and they say, well, it's a good oil, it's a good fat, but it still draws your frequency down. It still pulls you down, and it puts you in this loop. And it's just something we do have to fight. But what I've been battling with too, and like people think about emotional eating. I actually wrote something. Let me see. Okay, so here's what I wrote. People hear emotional eating and think it only means you're sad or going through like something like a breakup or something strong. But that's just one surface layer. For many of us, emotional eating was survival eating. I wasn't sad, I was stressed, I was overwhelmed and overstimulated. And overstimulated can come from I got to pick my son up from school, then I got to run him over to therapy, and then I got to hurry up and get home to the horses, and then I got to prepare for tomorrow, and I still have to do laundry, and so it can come. Oh, that can be overstimulating. So overstimulated doesn't mean that you're just like amped up on caffeine or coffee or something like that. It could just be you have so much on your plate. So and I didn't even know that I was trying to quiet something deep inside of me. What we're actually trying to feed is a sense of separation. We're trying to fill a void that was left when we were disconnected from God, disconnected from rhythm we were designed to walk in. We eat when we can't pray. We eat when we can't cry. We eat when we don't have language for what's aching inside. But no food on this earth will fill the spot that was shaped for God's presence. And that's what emotional eating really is. It's hunger for return. It's hunger for our rhythm. We've been all thrown into like the matrix, and everything feels absolutely backwards for us. And a lot of us are just seeking that. And then the overstimulation, the overwhelming, the stress. I mean, way back in the day, I remember I would go to work all day. I wouldn't eat all day long at work because I just wanted to get there and get my work done. And then I would come home, I would take care of all the animals, and then I would sit down and have pizza. And that was a massive de-stressor for me. And it would just help me relax. It would soothe me. I would watch TV. I would binge out and just go to sleep. And then I started eating more healthy, like maybe it wasn't pizza this time, but maybe it was like pasta or steamed sweet potatoes, something like that. That still all gives you that grounding, warm feeling in your belly, which that's still an addiction to food, even though you think it's a good thing. But doing things like what Gary said, going for walks, swimming in a river or a lake, or even if you have a pool, who cares?
Yeah.
Those, yes, they're distractions, but they're not distractions because you're feeding your soul at the same time. And I cannot tell you how much that deep breathing has helped me, because I eat once a day, I eat watermelon. That's all I eat. And I eat it around 4 o'clock, barefoot out in the sun. And that's life changing. I can tell you that right now, because you're getting light from the food and you're getting light from the sun as you're eating. So you're getting it both inside and outside. And, I sit with God during that time, and I'm connected to the earth. And yes, there's cravings that still come right now. As I'm driving here, I mean, I've been doing this for over 2 months now. We're at a theme park right now, and I just realized that I don't think I brought enough water with me. And, so I'm already starting to like kind of sort of spiral. But again, that was just like an emotional response of a little bit of a stressor that I had. And the other thing that I've done, which you all know that I try to look at stuff from the perspective of God and the Bible, is I try to sit in meditation as much as I can. And when that hunger comes, it's him that I need. And yes, there's chemical stuff and all that stuff too. But when you get over that hump and then you start connecting with God, I can see how breatharianism can work when you have your body clean, your temple, you're on your water, you're hydrated, and you have that direct source with God, and you are taking your daily bread. He's literally feeding you. I'm definitely nowhere near that, but I can see how if you kind of have all that together, that can work. But it's hard. And people ask me, like, how'd you do it? And I'm like, you literally just do it. Like, there's no secret to it at all. You sit with that pain. Oh, I know what it is. Remember when we talked about with yoga with, I can't remember that lady's name. She was on here, but she talked about finding your breath when you're in that very uncomfortable pose with yoga. That's all it is. You find your breath within that hunger and in that ache, and you just make it over that hurdle. Now, don't go out and starve yourself. Like, we're not trying to like make people anorexic or anything like that. Have your waters, have your fruits, have your veggies, have your salads, have your sweet potatoes, even rice or whatever. I have no idea where you are on your path, but make sure you're taking care of yourself. And, I'm watching everything I do very carefully and closely. So that's kind of like what I have. Like, don't think that, oh, I have a broken heart, I go home and I eat ice cream. That's emotional eating. That is, but emotional eating is so much more than that too. Stress from work, stress from your kids, stress from just being here is hard. So, but find that connection to God, or whatever you want to call it, source. Go into your meditations, which is prayer, and quiet your mind, and you just sit with that ache, and then it comes. And Bill Donahue is one that really teaches on this, and when you find it, it is eye-opening for sure. But that's my part I had to say.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah,
One of
go ahead, Gary.
so one of the things is, yeah, we have to take, well, not everybody, but take the kids to school, to the ball game, to the rehearsal, to the whatever it is, right? Whatever, or moving, and you're moving from one state to another state, physically moving, and we don't eat. We don't eat a normal meal. So the longer the time goes and the stress factor of getting to all these things that we have to do can cause cravings because we feel disconnected, right? Even though we are fully connected and we're doing all those things, there's a lot of stress factors there. And stress is a big thing for causing overeating. And then you stop at a convenience store, and I'm sure you know that everything in a convenience store is either brown or kind of like a vanilla color. And it's all processed, highly, highly processed food. And we go in and we grab it because it's there. And we're eating that, and it's causing issues in our body because of it. So take the right food with you. Take the enough water, which has happened to all of us, right? We get out there and, oh my God, I don't have enough water. Especially as a nomad, I try to carry 6 gallons with me all the time. And when I get down to 3, I'm looking to fill the other one to get me back to, be more like 5.5, maybe 5 gallons. And then when that one gets empty, then, so it's just a continuous thing. But I carry the lemons and the dark maple syrup with me, and I make my master cleanse on the road, so I don't have to, or I have tea somewhere. So those are little things that you can do, but being aware of it and not letting the fact that you have an emotional eating issue overwhelm you once you know you have this. It's like, oh my God, I'm an emotional eater and I don't know how to get out of it. Just follow your breath, follow your heart. If you know that you're an emotional eater and you want to change how you do things, change your story. I used to be an emotional eater, but I'm not anymore. And when I feel that, I go for a walk, or I go for a swim, or I go for a bicycle ride, or a bike ride, or I get in the car and I go for a ride, and get around people who, if you can, because almost everybody's an emotional eater around the whole world. Try to find people who are either eliminating or have eliminated their emotional eating, and together that energy linking together will give you more strength. Okay, I'll end right there.
Well, okay, so going back to what Sarah was saying, Sarah was talking about, well, one of the things that really resonated with me is just being aware of yourself and like why things, sorry, my vent just kicked on, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Like in every moment before you respond or act, take a self-reflection note on like, okay, why am I doing this? What's going on? And things like that. I'm thinking as we're talking about this, thinking about my friend who a couple years ago went through a divorce and then she moved into an apartment by herself. And I'll tell you what, when you are by yourself, all you have a lot of time to really learn about yourself. And one of the things that she found that she was doing is like being alone. She kept eating because she didn't want to get to know herself. And so that's also something to be considered when we're talking about emotional eating, is like even being alone and you're trying to fill that void because we're so used to being like go, 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 or always, communicating with someone or watching something. I'm sure you all know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so just listening to what both of you have shared and even what Toni read earlier today, just it really does resonate with me. And it is truly about that awareness and connecting with God and connecting with yourself, going within. And as Gary was talking about, everything is a parasite within you, and those are the driving forces, and that we need to break these patterns that we have been taught and then we've ingrained in ourselves. And so just finding a way to break all that. And in order to do that, then you need to know yourself. So I just wanted to share that a little bit.
Well, thank you, Katie. I'm always thinking about what is the cause of something. Why are we the way that we are? I have struggled my whole life with weight problems. My whole focus, teenage years, young adult, was always about how to lose weight. And I almost starved myself to death with a 500-calorie diet just to lose weight. I don't remember what I was eating. If it was, it was definitely not fruit. And this was somewhere in my 20s. So that was a lot of, I don't even remember emotional eating or why I was doing what I was doing. I do remember in high school when in the Netherlands for the first time all these things like these Mars bars and Milky Ways came on the market. Yeah, I ate that. I didn't have a lot of money, but I was definitely eating it every day and feel good about it. It was my feel good thing. So that could have been an emotional part. And throughout the years, it's not as much about not feeling all right and then wanting to eat. Because when I grew up, it was, yeah, you had to finish what was on your plate. You put it on your plate and you eat it. I think that's in the military the same way too. Um, can you take over, Gary? I have somebody on the door, at the door, that I need to answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Hey, stuff happens. And this could be an emotional eating time. because you're trying to do one thing and something is interrupting you, and it causes an emotional thing and your breath changes, and you may end up wanting to have something to eat to calm that down, where going and engaging in that conversation, whatever that is, could actually take that away. It's the anticipation of the unknown. If you don't know who is there, okay, the fear of the unknown can cause emotional eating. You know, when we have the opposite too, I think I might have talked about that. There's people, when they get emotional, they refuse to eat. And that's just as devastating as emotional eating. So, you know, that's that duality. We're at both ends of the pole here, and we want to be in the middle of it, where we eat because we want to, not because we're emotionally driven to. And when we're emotionally driven to things, ice cream is a big one. Pizza, chicken. There's so many foods, because they're all chemically laden with things to keep us hungry and keep us emotional. Turning off the media, that's huge. Some people get so emotionally overwhelmed, and you know, and like love stories, movies. I mean, they can all cause emotional eatings if the movie relates to something that happened to you within, you know, in your lifetime. It's really an interesting thing to think of, but it's more important to do something about it. And movement, getting your breath, doing qigong, doing yoga, doing something to break that pattern. It's an emotional loop, and you got to break that loop. And if you don't break the loop, then you'll do it forever. And some people can do that forever and not have a problem. But knowing that you have an emotional eating issue, if you want to address it through the breath and through live, life-giving, high energy foods like fruits, berries, melons, and the master cleanse. The whole thing, to me, and I'm not even sure how I broke my overeating habits. I think I just got involved in life in a different way. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen every once in a while now. I'm not going to let it be the end of me and go, oh my God, I'm still an emotional eater. No, I'm not going to do that. I think Toni addressed that. You eat it, you move on. I remember Dr. Morse talking about, he was doing a fast, and he had a craving for a peanut butter cup. He said, and I drove by that store. Every time I drove by that store, I wanted a peanut butter cup. He said, and I think he was building a house. So he was going by there all the time. Finally, one day he stopped and he got a Reese's peanut butter cup. He ate it, and he never had that craving again, which is bizarre. But I mean, those are how things happen in life. It's interesting how we, like, kids are big time emotional eaters. They learn from their parents. That's who we learn from. Because you're not born being an emotional eater. It's from the time you're a baby and they start giving you things like things to make your face crunch up, like a lemon, you know, or they give you Jello, or they give you beer or alcohol, even as an infant. You know, Coca-Cola used to have an ad. Your child has an upset stomach, Coca-Cola. Well, you're doing a lot more to that body, because that's pure sugar. And I don't know if I mentioned, but that spot in the back of your throat, your tongue, there's, again, thousands of scientists working on that every day, because that one particular taste bud in the back of the tongue produces dopamine. And that makes you feel good. So there's a big race going to find out the exact chemical process, like that salt slide there for McDonald's. You tip that up and it hits that spot, and you get emotional release from that. And that doesn't mean that you should go do that. We want to do the opposite. We don't want to do the salt slide, you know. And the foods are so chemically laden now, and they're for addiction. They're to make you suppressed, depressed. And will that work with everyone? No, but it's working with enough. And a lot of the medications, the synthetic medications we'll put on, causes emotional eating. First off, they've already given you a diagnosis of why you're sick, and they're going to be on this medication for the rest of your life. And this medication can cause hunger. It can cause depression. It can cause all kinds of things. So, are you back, Toni?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, so I'll stop right there.
Well, it was getting interesting about, how these pharmaceuticals can actually cause depression.
Yep.
And when you're depressed, all bets are off. So
Yep.
then,
So when
then
you're
you're in that well-known circle and not being able to get out.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about something else. We always want to celebrate, we celebrate with food. It could be celebrating with alcohol, but we usually celebrate with food, and with having a restaurant on every corner here in the United States and about a dozen in between. It's always easy. There's always something that you feel like, yeah, let's go there. And it is so easy. And you will, when would you celebrate with fruit? You don't. It is always with food that you shouldn't be eating. It's interesting how that all works. And I was going to before the doorbell rang. Usually I just let it ring, but my husband came home from work at 7 this morning and he's sleeping. So I was like, oh my God, no. I don't want to keep ringing the bell because it started ringing and then bouncing on the door. And it was actually somebody I well known, and I told him, just leave it outside the door. Anyway, all done. Um, Now of course, I lost my train of thought.
Okay, well, Toni, while you're thinking about your train of thought, so you just mentioned like celebrations and things. Okay, so I have recently moved. I don't know anyone where I live. Um, and so I am meeting new people. And yesterday I was on a walk and I met some people and they invited me to a social gathering at their house and they were drinking their scotch out on the front porch and stuff. And they said something about that and that I should have, come have a drink. And, that's one thing that I find myself struggling with when I'm with others and I'm trying to meet people and they don't eat the way I eat. They drink alcohol, I don't. And then so sometimes what I end up doing, I always stick with my water. It's what I do. But when it comes to the food, then sometimes I will eat their food and then I feel yucky afterwards. But that is also something that I just need to be more aware of why am I doing this? Is there a better way for me to handle this, be prepared for it when this happens and things like that. So I just thought that that was interesting because I'm struggling with that right now and you just brought it up. So.
Katie, if you can hear me okay, I can tell you that I met with, because I had to move my horse and I'm with a wonderful group of people, but they do drink as well. And so what I started doing, depending on the time of day, I'll either have my orange juice with them or I found this, it's called Taste Nirvana coconut water. It comes in a glass bottle and everything. It is so good. I can tell you that much. And I bring that and that's my drink. And then I bring, what I've been doing lately is I cut watermelon up really cute and I bring it for everybody. And, they love it. And everything just seems to be flowing wonderfully. But yeah, I've been to picnics and everything this year, and I just bring fruit with me, and I bring enough to share. And watermelon's always easy to bring and share, and it seems like everybody loves that. And of course, it's in season right now.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna say. Sarah.
Sorry.
Because you know what it is? It is about respect. In a way, when you visit people, you want to respect them and you eat their food. But how about the other way around? If you feel 100% confident in what you are doing and that you are eating the right food and you bring it, I think they will respect it. Because I remember from my younger years going out with friends, they told me, you know, fun, because I didn't drink. And my response was always like, so be it. I didn't care. I felt confident in what I was doing, and it was eventually accepted. You know, they knew if they were going to get drinks, they got either water or apple juice for me. So talking about a long, long time ago. I mean, I was in my late teens, early 20s. So it just be, you know, don't feel like you would be hurting their feelings because you are important.
And Katie, also know that maybe this might be a time for you not to have, local friends at this point. This might be a time for you to, God might want you alone at this time to work on yourself and stuff like that. And then when it's time for those people to come into your life, you already know how that works.
Were you listening to Colleen's and my conversation?
No. But you already know the answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh gosh, I love you all so very much.
And we love you too.
Yeah.
So shall we get a little into, because we have
Yes.
about, I think we're going to do another 15 minutes. And I do want to get a little into what is it, Nora's write-up, because he mentioned something very interesting. So let's do the screen share. I finally figured out easily how it works. And it was actually this part. I already put in there to the answer to, are we all emotional eaters? The short answer to that question is yes, for almost everyone living in modern civilized society. Civilized. Our unnatural emotional attachment to food actually originate very early in life. Beginning when we are babies, we are inadvertently taught behavior to set that stage for a lifetime of addictive and abusive eating habits. You already mentioned something like that, Gary. And in modern maternity wards, the natural mandates of helpful birding that have been served to dependably perpetuate our species over the millennia are forsaken in favor of safety, sterilization, and other misguided ideas. The medical establishment itself has given birth to a belief system which views gestations and birth as risky, dangerous, and problematic. In reality, however, just being admitted to an hospital is statistically far more risky and dangerous than childbirth, whether you're giving birth or being born. Our species' biological heritage equips each of us with all the emotional, intellectual, and physical accoutrements that the act of giving birth requires. Our ancient forebears had the birthing process figured out quite nicely, hundreds of thousands of years ago. In its never-ending quest to perpetuate itself, our culture teaches us that our ancestors were unsuccessful, ignorant wretches, just treading water until the divinely predetermined destiny could be fulfilled with the advent of modern civilization. However, if we look at the evidence rationally, we find no reason to believe our ancestors weren't happy, peace-loving, resourceful, healthy, unstressed, and comfortable with their existence in pristine nature, like all the other species on Earth are. Certainly, when it comes to giving birth, the natural methods that employed makes ours looks clumsy and awkward by comparison. Information about the natural birthing process is not lost to us. Enough is known to provide us with a basis for comparing what should be taking place when a baby is born to what actually occurs to modern birthing wards. For example, we know that our first breath should be initiated by suckling of nourishment from the mother's breast, not from a violent blow to our posteriors. We also know that the cord which had nourished us for 9 months needn't be cut, because nature provides that it will wither and fall away naturally from lack of necessity. Although many of these backwards practices do not directly cause problem relatively to emotional eating, they do have physiological and psychological consequences, and representative of the many bumbling infractions that are committed against new mothers and their babies by medical professionals. Let me see. Yeah, there is a book, The Hygienic Care of Children by Herbert Shelton. He has many interesting books, by the way. When one considers the abuse that parents and physicians heap upon children, it causes him to marvel, not that so many children die, but that so few die. For he soon sees that the child enters a conflict against sinister foes the day it is born, even granting that it has not been forced to fight with them before birth. Let me see what was yeah, this goes on to everything what happens directly after birth, and that is actually the introduction to emotional eating. Newborn infants are not physically or emotionally prepared to be alone. And yet, when I gave birth a long time ago, I was told, oh, you just have to let her cry and she needs to be alone and all that stuff. It stressed me out so badly that at some point I didn't have any milk for my baby anymore. I was that stressed. So it is, yeah. For the newborn separated from his mother, the overwhelming and terrifying reality is that there is something inexplicably wrong. His inborn expectations tell him that he should be immediate and constant physically contact with his mother. Crying is the natural response of a newborn baby when his primordial directives are not met. The reasons for crying are no different for babies than they are for adults. Crying is a safety value that eases the stress we feel when we are in intensely disturbing or frightening circumstances. In babies, crying has the additional function of alerting adults that a baby is in danger. There's a reason why none of us likes to hear babies crying in public or anywhere else for that matter. Our biological instincts command us to rescue the suffering infant, but we can't. Constant crying is so common among modern newborns that it is not recognized as a signal that something is wrong. Rather, it is thought to be a normal feature of infancy and has come to be understood as the natural all-purpose way that a baby communicates his needs. Some experts even believe that crying is meaningless or just bad behavior and should be ignored. Soothing a crying baby has become a special learned skill that has earned a place in the intellectual arsenal of informed new parents. Methods like swaddling, jiggling, shushing, and holding the baby on its side or stomach are effective at temporarily calming a distressed baby. But in order to know if the problem of crying has been properly dealt with, we must know what's causing it. Always go back to the cause. And that's where these methods come up short. If the reason the baby is crying is he wants contact with a parent or wants to feel connected, or like she or he is familiar surroundings like in the womb, or be held in a way that is most comfortable, then these methods will work. And most of the time, that's all the baby needs. But it would be a mistake to assume that these methods serve to remove the cause of an all infant fussing and crying. Babies don't cry because they miss the womb or they feel uncomfortable outside it, or because they have upset themselves by waving their arms. The truth is, babies often cry because of real physiological suffering, like indigesting from substances containing in the mother's breast milk or other foods they have been fed or forced to ingest, like vaccination, medication, etc., and it cannot be resolved by shushing or suckling. For the baby separated from the mother, crying is an expression of this terrible emotions being felt, and it also becomes a way to get what it wants most, the closeness of the mother. The first thing that is typically assumed when a baby cries is that he is hungry. So crying brings the reward of food as well. Thus, the disconnect between mother and babies begins the confusion surrounding emotions and eating, and lays the foundation for other unnatural behavior patterns on the part of both mother and baby. These patterns lead to still other behaviors which shape harmful lifelong habits, including a tendency to use food as a surrogate to fulfill unrelated, unmet needs. In humans who are in human beings who are birthed naturally, breastfed, and held constantly by their mothers in the first few months of life, food takes its natural place among all of the other requirements of life that are fulfilled by mothers. It is not likely to be confused with love, consolidation, or entertainment. Eating is a pleasurable experience, but it's primarily and simply an act that sustains life, like drinking water or breathing. For a baby who is separated from his mother except during feeding times, however, food becomes more than a substance. It makes bad feelings go away, it brings comfort and ceases emotional burdens. So I stop here, let you guys join in about this part, because this is actually the way she explains it, is how it all starts and how we, well, most of us deal with this or are, yeah, we're subject to this. Because it was taught, and it was taught to me, when I was in my teens, is how you should deal with babies. So as a mother, your instinct is actually to keep the baby with you, but they tell you it's not good. And I wonder where the heck that came from.
Mind control. You see these tribes,
Yeah,
and
I forgot about that.
yeah, the babies never leave the tribe. You know what I mean? They're raised as a member of the tribe, and they're seldom alone. I think we talked about this. There's a tribe that when before the mother gets pregnant, she goes and she creates a song about that baby and includes the name. And then they teach it to the father. And when the baby's born, and during the time that she's pregnant, the whole village learns the song. And if the baby does, or the child does something that is not acceptable to the tribe, they bring the person, the child or the young adult, and they sit him in the middle of a circle of the whole tribe, and they sing that song to him to remind them of who they really are. And everything in this society is taught to disconnect us from who we really are. And that is a huge part of emotional eating. And it is part of the emotional eating that the baby is learning while it is growing up from the parents, because the parents grew up with emotional eating. And most of us, we're totally unaware that we're emotional eating. We're just moving in and out of breath and how we're facing life. And we're so caught up in it that we don't realize what we're doing. We're not aware of our breath. We're not aware of our eating habits. Not really engaged in our relationships with one another, with our circle of influence, and we've lost the fact that it's okay to be who we are. And when we go somewhere, to be able to stand in that moment and say, this is who I am. I'm a vegetarian, I'm a fruitarian, I'm a whatever it is, right? So we fall into these things where we surrender to someone else's ideas because we want to fit in. And a lot of emotional eating is created because we're trying to fit in to that world, which is not really our world, but we're trained to be polite. And we go there and we eat that food. And we all know alcohol is sugar, and sugar is a massive emotional eating product. Synthetic sugars, not natural sugars, like in your fruits, berries, and melons. And they're picking everything 2 weeks before it's tree ripened. So it doesn't have all that the body needs to generate a healthy, high vibrating mental state. So as we lower our way down in frequency because we're not breathing properly and we're not getting good foods, we're losing our power and our ability to make clear decisions about how we want to live our life in the future or in the now. There's no future, there is no past, there's no right now. To step into the right now and be the person that you want to be. Because we have all these half-truths and lies we've been told we've accepted as truth. And until we filter through and figure out how to control our breath in those situations, we will be out of control. And that's what emotional eating is. You're out of control. So I'll stop right there.
Yeah, there is another section here is baby, we're going back to the babies. The natural food like breast milk and fruit later on are easily and effortlessly digested by babies. The cooked, processed, and otherwise inappropriate foods that are fed to babies, by contrast, cost them dearly of bodily energy. Digesting cooked foods requires a flurry of chemical, hormonal, and mechanical responses in the baby's body that we will call stimulation, even though the infant may feel either energized, stimulated, or sedated, depending on other relevant factors. Later, the baby's body requires the rest to make up the deficit that was created by the harmful and overstimulating effects of the food. The baby may feel tired or irritated and may cry, fuss, or act odd. The mother, whose separation from her child impedes her ability to read his signals, thinks the baby is hungry and feeds him more. Then starts a stimulation, depression cycle all over again. Unconsciously, the baby had just learned the bad habit of using harmful stimulation when he feels down or irritated to create energized feelings of comfort. The baby has very little developed capacity to think at this point, yet he is developing a bad habit that he will eventually expand upon and which will enter into many other areas of his life. It is interesting how it actually starts. I never thought about it until I read Nora's article. But so, new mothers, be aware with your baby. I want to leave it at this for today. I know I have it on the screen, and I wanted to share it all. But if you want this, just send me an email, healthywithfruit@gmail.com, and I'll send it to you because I think it has an important information, and we just don't have the time to go into all of it. And I'm scrolling too fast for anyone to read it here. And maybe another time we can go into this a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
The average person in our culture has 30 to 50 pounds of reserve fuel on his or her body. Considering that starvation is months away from most people, it defies logic to think What we feel when we miss a meal is real hunger. Yeah, that is another thing. What exactly is real hunger? Oh, this is I forgot this one. To further complicate matters, it turns out that all of us interpret unrelated physical symptoms as the signal that our body needs food. It surprises most people to learn that a rumbling stomach, hunger pangs, lightheadedness, dizziness, weakness, headaches, and the like are not hunger. They are signs that the body is attempting to physically recover from past abuses. They are actually signs that the body does not need food. These symptoms stop when we eat, and we mistakenly take this as evidence that what we felt really was hunger. The real reason these feelings stop when we eat, however, is because the body cannot heal and digest food at the same time. Further evidence that these feelings are not hunger comes from people who have gone without food extended periods. Invariably, it is reported that all of these symptoms go away on the second or third day of a fast. That's always interesting because when I start a fast, then it's like a symphony in my stomach. And yes, it goes away, but usually not after 3 days. It takes a few more days. Thirst doesn't go away if we just wait a day or two. We don't feel more energized the longer we do without sleep. And the symptoms of asphyxiation don't stop if we don't get oxygen, they get worse. The same goes for any other real bodily needs. So it is like what we consider hunger is not really hunger. So yeah, there's talks about properly digested food. There is how many pages is this? I forgot to look at it. And I forgot to put the page numbers on it. Still have to do that. They also talk about raw food addiction is what causes raw fooders to perpetually retain bad habits, like making complicated raw recipes, using harmful condiments like vinegar and salt, overeating, defined simply as the act of eating in the absence of true hunger, eating too early in the morning or too late at night. While these practices are fine during transition or even for a couple of years, they invariably lead to symptoms because the body will continue to slowly heal on a raw food diet, even though these bad habits are being indulged, and it will become less tolerant of dietary mistakes. Yeah, I got bored with the food. I got tired of only fruit and vegetables. These are the things that we often hear. And I found that when I am on a, well, say 80% fruit and some greens, I don't even think about recipes. I don't get bored with it. It's just like I do need to eat, so I eat. And it's not necessary. Then I'm 100%, committed. And yeah, when people say I was always hungry no matter how much I ate, the person has obviously never realized that the feelings he or she was mistaken for hunger were instead the symptoms of cleansing or withdrawal. A person who doesn't see the healing process through to its natural conclusion will never experience real hunger and will continue to experience the symptoms that are commonly mistaken for hunger. And there was a question, my health began to fail, raw food almost ruined my health. She goes into that. You don't want to hear that now. Should we go into this? I hear that a lot, raw food in these groups, the fruit groups that are out there. And it's like if a raw fooder continues to eat the same borderline transition foods for years after transitioning, symptoms may be experienced as the body becomes healthier, more sensitive, and less tolerant of abusive practices. Most often, when symptoms are experienced after a person has been raw for a while, the first possibility that is considered is nutrient deficiency, thanks to a good deal of brainwashing by the supplement and medical industries. Nutrient deficiency is a red herring. Remember that one. As raw fooders, one of the most important things we can do to ensure our success is put ideas of nutrient deficiency out of our minds. When raw fooders have symptoms, they most likely need to be considered first, which is almost the most likely cause needs to be considered first, which is almost always the excesses that are indulged because of food addiction. People who never kick their need to be entertained by their food continue to make mistakes like eating complicated, poorly combined recipes, eating condiments and food flavorings like vinegar and salt, eating out of boredom or while being under stress. These practices all have I cannot pronounce that word. Deleterious. Probably need to. This is the Dutch way of pronouncing it, guys. Effects on our health, and this will be experienced in the form of symptoms. And I have to say that I have an dehydrator. Used it a lot when I started like 7, 8 years ago. When I first got it, I used it a lot. Came up with all kinds of interesting recipes and drying this and drying that. It's sitting there. It hasn't been used in years. It's like when I eat now, it's like, the fruit is there, if it's the bananas, the grapes, or the oranges or lemons, or like now I'm going to get an abundance, really abundance of big, very great, juicy, sweet mangoes, because my neighbor has 3 enormous trees with thousands of mangoes. So the coming months is mangoes for me. But it is, I don't think about recipes anymore. How is that with you guys?
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I eat once or twice a day and that's it. And I've been having really good food since I got that app. I check everything. And a lot of the stuff I was eating, 100 being excellent for your body, a lot of them was 0 out of 100. That's pretty bad. That's something you shouldn't be putting in your body. And a lot of those liquids like true leaf tea, 25 out of 100. So,
Yeah, but now you're talking about processed foods. And I think we need to get away from that you don't have to read the ingredients on the package or scan it.
well, that's true, but this tells you why too, what chemicals are in it and if they're cause cancer or
True, and yeah, I think I'm looking at it from where at the point that I am, but it's probably good for people who are transitioning and trying to get away from processed foods and need to have a better reason to their whys. So, what exactly is the app, Gary?
it's YUKA. It only works on Apple and iPads. So I think I posted it on my Facebook. I'll post it again for people that have that. I'm sure it's going to go wider because it's causing massive companies to change their formulas in their food products because now that people know, they're not buying their product anymore. And it's a big enough movement that the companies are actually changing their ingredients. And it's going to continue because as more and more people know and understand, they'll start, with which is supposedly they're doing anyway, but the food dye colors, all these things, and fruit and vegetables are getting attacked just like processed. They're making them processed food, even though they're labeled as organic.
And would the answer also include that?
It doesn't involve. It doesn't. It won't do alcohol because we all know alcohol is sugar. So,
Because remember what I mentioned. I'm sorry, Sarah or Katie, who tries to come in. I'll be really quick. It about the fresh figs that I got from oh, what was it? Whole Foods 2 weeks ago. It made me sick.
mhm.
Burning, very burning mouth that lasted for 2 days, and stomach ache, belly ache, and I did wash them well, and
Mhm.
they were organic.
Yeah, I mean, they're invading all foods, and like Bragg apple cider vinegar. Well, Katy Perry and her hubby bought the company, and then one of the first things they did was they signed a $1.2 billion deal with Bill Gates to use peel apples only.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Bragg apple cider vinegar is not what it used to be, and so because that's a fermented product anyway, and Dr. Morse doesn't like fermented products.
Yeah, we stay away from that. I have to apologize, and Sarah had to leave, and I tried to butt in because I wanted to say what I wanted to say. My apologies, Sarah, if you hear this. Okay, she had to leave.
Well,
Okay, guys, we are at an hour and 22 minutes, so we are going to, whatever we come up with for next week, we can discuss this further because it is important to know, and especially what you just mentioned about Bragg with peel apples. I didn't know that.
yeah.
And those can even be organic, or they have it on organic foods too. And I think it's coming to that they don't even have to put it on the fruit, that it is um,
That has a peel on it.
yeah.
Yeah, because they're calling it natural. There's all
Uh-huh.
kinds of going on in the food industry, so it's really important to get your teeth under control. We're eating our way into dis-ease, and it's all being done by design. So reducing the population is the biggest thing right now, and we will never know the true numbers of people that have passed. All I know is only time we ever get body counts is in war, and during COVID, we got body counts. So is that World War III? I don't know. Is that the newest way they're going to do things? I have no idea. I just know that we have to really start paying attention to what's going on, get our eating under control, and it's we don't have a. It's not like we have a choice. We don't have a choice. It's and I don't want to use us against them, although it kind of seems that way. But
Yeah,
awakening,
and you know what? We are not conspiracy theorists.
no.
We go with what we see and what we experience. And by the way, all this information is for entertainment purposes only. Yeah.
But it's not a good thing, and only the ones that I can't say only the ones because some people can eat poison till they're 105 and never get sick. So there's that too. And if we are telling our body that we're eating poison, it's going to react to that. So I go back to what Paul Chek said when he was in a restaurant. And for us, with Jamie and the Dreamers, when we travel, we play at bars and wineries, and we don't drink. So we always have a good time, but you have to have that mindset when you go in there. When we get a mocktail or, you know, a non-alcoholic drink. So a lot of the people that are there are drinkers, but people don't drink like they used to. I met a guy that he sells alcohol, and he said in the whole country, our country, the United States, alcohol sales are down 12%, and they don't know quite what to do about it because the kids today, they're not drinking. Then, oh, my phone's about ready to die, so.
Okay, time's up. All right, Gary, thank you for being here. Katie, did you want to say something? I saw you coming off mute.
Oh no, I was just, if you were going to end the show, I was just going to say thanks everyone for being here. And, you know, we'll continue this journey of getting to know ourselves and understanding why we do the things that we do and breaking those habits that,
Right.
you know, were ingrained into us at a very, very young age. So thank you everyone for being here. And I look forward to being with you again next week.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Gary. Love you all, and till the next time.
All right.